So this is a recording of the Positively Sparking podcast with the host Phil Byrne. He's a great host, had lots of decent questions for me. So I think this is quite an interesting podcast, and that's why I'm sharing it on the channel with you. So please enjoy. If you have any questions, leave a comment. I'd appreciate a like because it does help the videos. And of course, if you want to see more of this, please subscribe to AdEvolver. I hope you enjoy. Please take it away, Phil.
Hi, welcome to Positively Sparking, a podcast on internet marketing, online productivity and business. Today I'm with Leake, PPC expert and founder of AdEvolver, a new AdWords automation tool built on the PPC principles that have brought Ed success in his AdWords career so far. Hi Ed, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Phil, thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you here. You're actually the second AdWords automation tool that we've had on the podcast. And we have another one in a month's time. So it feels like we're in a period of AdWords focus. And that's a good thing. But for those of us who don't know who you are, tell us all about yourself and what you do.
Okay, so I founded a PPC agency, pay-per-click agency, called Midas Media. We're based in the UK. And in the past 6 months, I've doubled our profits using in-house tools and automation, which has triggered the building of AdEvolver, which we're talking about today. So my background's agency. So I'm not a hustler. I'm a business owner. But I'm also a bit of a nerd. I actually built my first website back in 1996. So I'm only 35, but I've got about a decade of pay-per-click experience. So I'm a wise old fox in the industry at the grand age of 35, which is, it could only happen in digital marketing, couldn't it?
Absolutely. And only this time, Ed, because we are the only generation that can have been there from the start. Other generations are going to grow up with the internet, and they're not going to be able to live before it like we did, all in all.
Yes, and they're not going to. They won't remember, unless they were complete nerds like me when they were teenagers. They won't remember things like the hoops you had to jump through to buy a domain name, or building your first website on GeoCities, and Google did not exist, and AOL dial-up. The first time we got dial-up internet, and it was 0800, so the internet was free. I don't think I left the house for a few months. Prior to that, I scared the crap out of my parents because I drove up a BT phone bill of £500 using the internet when I was about 13. Not for nothing nefarious. I mean, I was a complete geek. I was building websites and all sorts, but I digress.
But look how that investment's paid off now, Ed. That £500 on that bill all those years ago, look where you are now. Good thing.
Yeah, I'm sat in a darkened room talking to you over a screen. This is what technology's done to the world.
So Ed, there's quite a few AdWords apps out there, and you already mentioned that yours has enabled you to double profits in your agency. So tell us all about yours and why there's room for it. I'm saying that just having said you've doubled your profits, so that's perhaps reason enough, but tell us all about it.
Yeah, so, I mean, I don't think this AdEvolver is going to be just for agencies, but essentially I built it I didn't build AdEvolver. We built scripts and automation to scratch my itch. So I don't want to sound arrogant, but Midas Media is very much my brainchild, and the way we construct and run and optimize and do everything is fed from me. Which means it's all my fault when things go wrong. So, yeah, I mean, I've been building stuff to scratch my own itch constantly and to help scale the agency. And the reason I've been able to grow the profits is because I haven't had to take on more people to increase results and to manage more accounts, which is brilliant. And I don't want marketers listening to this to worry, because there is, there's always going to be room for the creative side of marketing. The whole point of automation, from my perspective, is to get the engineering and the analytics out the way, the bit that the human's a bit weak at and makes mistakes on. So, yeah, I mean, worst case scenario, AdEvolver will fix my own itch and no one else will care for it. But hopefully my itch is similar to other people's without sounding like some kind of horrible medical disaster. But you know, that's where it came from, really.
You made a great point there about marketing being this mix of creativity and technicality. And I think you're right, and that's what all great online marketing apps tend to do, isn't it? They can help us look at the technical and the data analytical side of marketing very quickly, give us great insights, which then feed our creativity. But that part still feels very human, doesn't it? That element
Yes, it's got to be. I mean, AI, the day that AI can do the creative, the business nuances, the strategy, the human side, is the day that the world is run by computers. And we're very, very far off that. I don't care what IBM and their Watson says. We're nowhere near that yet. So the industry that we're in, marketing, it will change, it will adapt, it will evolve. And yes, certain jobs, particularly the data side, I think those jobs will become more niched. But the creative side and the strategy side, that'll probably expand, if anything, because we'll be getting more data from the tools and the machines.
Totally agree. So when you mentioned there that you've been driving your agency and that your methodology is what's powering AdEvolver. So just give us some insight into that methodology. You don't have to give too much away, but there are different kind of styles of AdWords marketing, aren't there? And there's the alpha beta method, for example, and I've seen you talk about SKAGS on some of your videos. So just tell us, how you see things in the AdWords world.
So that's a very quick question to a very long answer. I think there's a combination of alpha beta and SKAGS to work that'll work for everyone. I think ultimately it is I hate to use the term 80-20 because it's completely overused these days, but 80% of the things that people talk about, like SKAGS and alpha beta, splitting match types, that sort of thing, they will work for most people. But it's not always true. There are certain exceptions. But the simple fact is, funnily enough, we had a call yesterday with Google about one of our best performing accounts that uses, essentially, it was built by me. Because I'm still very active. I'm not an agency owner that sits there and delegates everything. I'm very active. So that account spends 35k a month. So it's not massive, but it's big. Its average conversion rate across the entire account is 30%. And if no one believes me, send me an email and I will send you proof. 30% average conversion rate. And the thing about that is that client, they're happy, but they can outcompete any company in their niche, because even Google said, we can't give you precise numbers, we can't tell you conversion rates of competitors, but you're miles ahead. No one's touching you. So our goal for that client is literally saturate the market, spend every single penny we possibly can, dollars actually, because it's a US client, and that's it. And that is built from a lot of the things that I'm building into AdEvolver. So wow. It's but to describe that in a 10-minute slot would do it a disservice. Sure. I'm tempted to do a full training course on it, give it away for free, and just say this is how I run the perfect, in air quotes, AdWords account. I might do that because there's a lot of training out there. I've bought my staff over the years pretty much every major PPC training course. Or been given access to it by other people, that sort of thing. Nothing stands out as particularly amazing, I'll be honest. And I don't want to sound arrogant, but you do look at the price of some of these courses and you think, is that it? So,
well, when you're talking about conversion rates of 30%, which is huge, that's absolutely huge. And I'm sure I read somewhere that the average conversion rate of most AdWords campaigns is 3. You are outperforming that. You are
really.
Yeah, you're 10 times. Which
But you know what? I'm just going to jump into one of our MCCs whilst you're saying that because I'm intrigued. 3% sounds. 3% sounds a bit low, excluding display. That's
excluding.
Pure, that's pure search.
Pure search, and And that would also include all the ones which are performing badly and whatever else.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I'll try and find that phrase for you somewhere online. Then you can use that in your own marketing because you're outperforming that significantly more so. And just a question I was going to ask you on that.
6.6%.
Is your
So, Phil,
right?
That including all display, I'm just looking at our MCC, 6.6. That's all right, isn't it?
That's really good. That's double, isn't it? It's over double. You're doing very well.
Display as well. Anyway, we digress. We're going to talk about the wrong thing here. It's not about the agency.
Well, one question I was going to ask you just on your 30% campaign there, it's just a question about marketing. Is that also a client that you says has the right product? Because that's certainly one thing I found.
No.
Is that you think they have the wrong product?
They're in a financial product. They've got financial product. They are in a cutthroat, highly competitive market, and everyone is selling the same thing.
Well, that impresses me even more to that extent.
Yeah, I mean, I did, and the simple structure of that account is there's no phrase matches in that account. It's all SKAGS, so individual exact match. It's broad match modified, and it's DSA to pick out, essentially picking the bits from between the teeth. So we killed off phrase a long time ago because they just don't perform against broad match, and then you've got broad match modified. I beg your pardon. Very little broad in the account, very, very little. We let DSA kind of handle that.
Got you. And so because lots of our listeners are not out and out AdWords people, just go through those phrases for us. So we have different kinds of keyword matching types in AdWords term. We have broad modified, broad, phrase, and exact. Just go through those definitions for the listeners really quickly.
Yeah, so exact is the most frustrating because it's no longer exact, it's close variant. But essentially, if someone wants to buy a Nike trainer and your exact is buy Nike trainer and they type that in, you are essentially targeting that. So exact match is an exact match should be in your account if it works. It should not be in your account if it doesn't drive conversions. In fact, there are arguments to say if you've got an exact match that doesn't work, it should be a negative in your against your entire account to stop that search query triggering. A phrase is essentially that it's a string of words that are in that exact phrase. So buy red Nike shoe in quotation marks. It has to come up in that order, but it can be prefixed or suffixed by anything. So that does generate some very random search queries. So phrase match is a bit interesting in that respect. And broad modified is essentially saying, here's a load of words. So my keyword is buy plus Nike plus shoe. I don't even know if there are shoes, they're trainers, aren't they? But and that essentially can trigger any of those words in the search term in any order. So you might say, well, hold on a minute, why is phrase worse than the broad modified? Because phrase, I'm controlling the order of the words. Well, what we found over the years is that phrase is that much more expensive per click that actually a good account structure with broad modified reduces the clicks down to a point where it kind of nullifies the need for phrase matching the account, which simplifies the account as well. And then DSA, dynamic search ads. So that's trusting Google to do all the magic. So it's getting better as well. So that's essentially sending, say you've got a product page and we're talking about these Nike shoes again. I don't work with Nike, by the way. This isn't a brand ad for them. And say you've got a particular product on that page, you then give AdWords that page as the destination, and it will match search queries on the fly to the content on that page, and also populate the headline in the ad, which is it's a bit black box thinking, but it's okay. The thing about DSA, it saves you a lot of time, and it also highlights a poor account, because if your DSA is outperforming the rest of your account isn't very good. I use DSA to plug the gaps and just to essentially give you new ideas for exacts and that sort of thing.
And here, as we're talking, what's great here is that, in and around what you're saying, I think are some of the principles that are underpinning AdEvolver, I guess, that you're not directly saying, but are coming out from your knowledge and experience in AdWords, which is great to hear. And so would you say that if an AdWords account has loads of exact match keywords and they all convert, that's a great AdWords account?
Yeah, because it's control. The whole point of having an exact or a SKAG, a single keyword ad group, is control. You're controlling your budget and the delivery.
Yeah.
And then if these are all converting, it's measured, it's predictable, it's projectable, which you don't have with broad, and you don't particularly have it with phrase either. So, but you can't have an account that's pure exact is a very weird world, and I'd say that's very, very extreme, because people still do search differently.
And it goes back to our conversation on creativity and the human element, doesn't it? Humans do not search in the same way. There's similarities to what people type in, but there's this vast variety of different combinations of keywords that people would type in when they actually mean the same thing. They're just influenced and changed by who they are. So, that's the other big element that comes into all of this.
And the semantics of Google, I mean, we all take it for granted now, but I'm sure you've done it, particularly on a mobile device. You'll type in something that you're after, but you don't formulate a correct sentence. You might put in, for example, using the Nike example again, like Nike shoe, and then after that you put, buy red, because you meant to actually type, I want to buy a red Nike shoe. So the semantics of your search are complete garbage. You wouldn't say that, but Google, you hit enter, you hit search, Google understands what you meant and delivers that page. And that's why there's so many new search queries every fraction of a second every day. And of course, voice search as well.
Absolutely.
Throws a new curveball into that. So it's freaky, really.
Another word you mentioned in your phrases there was simplicity. So tell us about simplicity in AdWords accounts and how you see that. Should accounts be full of SKAGs and long and huge things that we control very carefully, or should we aim for simplicity?
So this is partly why I built tools and building AdEvolver, because my belief is that an account should be as big as it needs to be to get the job done. And unfortunately, that can mean an account grows and grows and grows, and then there is a trade-off between the time and the result. However, if you could get that time back by using a tool that can manage and help you manage a large account, then you haven't got a trade-off anymore. You've just got the result. And I actually really like, particularly when my peers, other PPC people in the industry say, oh, I don't use SKAGs, or I don't split out, or I don't do this, or I don't segment because it takes too much time and it makes the account too big. I just sit there going, good. Because quite frankly, that means that the competition's not as strong because they can't be asked. That's probably rude. They haven't got time. They're struggling. If a marketer's got 10 accounts to manage, they can't physically do it. But that means that there's money being left on the table for people who can do it.
Totally. Absolutely. So where all of these elements that we're hearing from you, that we're guessing, and I'm sure are coming into AdEvolver, what's been the toughest part of putting all this together? So creating something that's buying you back that much time and looking at all these different aspects of an AdWords account for you. What's been the toughest part of it all?
So, the reason for AdEvolver even existing is because I couldn't find other tools to scratch my itch. And it's around the whole complexity thing. The biggest difficulty is AdWords is complex by its nature. The way the data is displayed is complex. It has to be. It's tabular data. So I think the biggest hurdle I have is making sure AdEvolver is simple, and we remove the complexity, because we're going to, under the skin, we're adding more complexity to be more competitive and get better results. But on the surface, we need to keep it simple, because a lot of tools that I've tried, they're not simple, and I don't want to have to invest in a tool and then invest time training on a tool and then invest time in my team training on a tool, that seems, to me, that's a different market to where AdEvolver is going to be. I don't want that. I want people to be able to step in and click a few buttons and go, well, that was easy. That's the ultimate goal. And I know that it's very, very difficult because the amount of data we're dealing with. We'll see. It's a challenge.
It certainly is. And you mentioned there that you tried some other tools, and really they're all trying to do that one thing. They might have different principles that power them, but this idea that a good AdWords app will buy you time and make everything simple for you, so you can quickly see what's changing, what you need to work on. That is the one factor above all that will separate the apps out there. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, and I don't want to cast aspersions about other tools either, but the reality is when we've looked at them and when we've used them over the years, they feel like they were developed by developers, not AdWords professionals or people who've just jumped out of college and I've got an idea. Not people that have been 10 years at the coalface actually using AdWords and then building a tool going, I'm fed up of the AdWords interface. The new interface is scaring the pants off everyone. There's got to be a better way. That's where my sort of, I don't know what you call it really, the 1,000-foot view. That's where I look at. I want my life to be easier as an AdWords professional, quite frankly.
Yep.
But I don't want to negate the results in doing so.
That makes sense, and you're offering the opportunity for everyone else to have the same.
Yeah, and on that as well, and it's important that people know this. It's AdEvolver does not employ anyone from Midas Media. They are completely insulated. So my agency has nothing to do with AdEvolver. They will and do use the beta, and you don't crap where you eat, because a lot of people who use AdEvolver are going to be agencies, and I will never offer services off the back of AdEvolver. In fact, I don't want to release too much information, but I'm thinking about doing a free lead generation source for agencies. Essentially, if people come through AdEvolver over the next year and they need support, we just say, guys, we don't do that. But this agency that uses AdEvolver, they're in the top 5 percentile of results. Use them. That's
a good idea, because I think it is important to keep them separate, isn't it?
100%.
Otherwise, it kind of devalues both in some way. If you didn't, overall,
it's I really don't want to throw muck, but WordStream for me is I would never use it because they offer paid management services. So as an agency, why on earth would I don't want to say too much, but from my personal, looking at my lawyer, from my personal opinion, nothing to do with my agency, my company, or my business, but that I wouldn't want to hand over my data, my money to someone that could just compete with me in a heartbeat. Doesn't feel right.